that low level, low key insulting thing English people say where they say English is much easier than all other languages. Ah,
Yes.
so
Yes.
rude. You try, then you realize it's hard, and then for some reason you think it's not as hard for it's rude.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Beyond Fluency Conversation Club. I'm very happy today to introduce you to Kerstin Cable, a polyglot, a speaker, an online course creator, podcaster. There is no end to the list of titles that we can give you, Kerstin. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Liam. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Welcome. I want to start with the obvious thing, which is how many languages do you know and speak?
Oh God, the language, this question everyone who learns more than 2 languages hates so much, right? It's so difficult. Okay, so what I say these days, and I usually get away with it, is that I speak 4 languages fluently. In the sense of if you switch to one of those, now I can handle it, we can do it. And that's English, French, Welsh, and German. My native language is German. Ich komme aus Deutschland. Hello, Deutschland. And then I will say I use the phrase I've studied. This is what I've settled on. So I've studied maybe 6 or 7 more, which means I'm not actively like trying to get better at those at the moment. I don't know, Russian, Spanish, Chinese, Italian, something. I did Latin in school. I messed around in Luxembourgish. I like languages.
And has that always been the case? Like, when did you start to realize that language was a passion for you?
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's almost like, for me at least, an interesting question is when did you realize that languages like exist? That there's different languages in the world? And I grew up in the Moselle Valley in Germany. And people in the Moselle Valley are traditionally grown up there. We speak a pretty strong dialect, which is close to Luxembourgish. So hence my interest in Luxembourgish. So I grew up with that dialect around me. And I always knew that people on the news speak differently, but you don't really clock it. And then in primary school, I started to realize, okay, this is different. We would get radio stations in Luxembourgish, like in the car radio. We would go to Luxembourg for petrol because they have lower taxes. You could, like, we're in driving distance. So it's one of those border crossing people things that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with if you live anywhere near another country. And in Luxembourg, people, you read things in French and people speak French and some of the radios in French. So I think I was like under 10 when I knew languages existed. And then on TV, a lot of the music videos and stuff were in English and the radio was in English. And you start to realize that main music comes in English. I love music. So I started to kind of start thinking, oh, English is particularly cool. With sort of that classic brainwash of the Europeans, right? English is cool. America is cool. And so by the time I learned my first foreign language formally, I was dead eager. I really was excited to finally start learning English age 10.
Nice. Wow. Yeah. So interesting how you basically grew up bilingual if you're speaking a dialect and then traditional German.
But you don't realize because obviously it's not a language and it is considered less than. It's not as prestigious as real German. And sadly, now I don't speak it anymore. So it's a little like in my podcast, I've spoken to heritage language speakers, and it's a little bit like that. So I can totally understand everything. I can sort of cobble it together, but it ain't real. I've got a T-shirt that says on it "Leitsgeheier," which is our dialect word for like an annoying person. And you'd never get that word anywhere else in Germany.
What is a heritage language speaker and why are they important?
Heritage language speakers are people typically where maybe there's a migration background in a family.
Right.
And you understand a language that maybe your grandparents spoke. So the USA is full of this. Maybe your grandma is Croatian. You understand Croatian, but you can't speak it yourself. You might not even fully understand it. So there's Welsh heritage speakers. It's quite common.
Mm.
In fact, my friend from Germany, she moved to the USA, had a child, and he obviously lives in a fully English-speaking environment. He understands German, will respond in German, but I don't know if he feels as much ownership over it or as much confidence using it. And the only reason he has German is because of that family heritage. So it's a very interesting, there's research into it as well. It's a very interesting field.
Yeah, understood. One of the key factors for me and my family moving to Italy was, without knowing the term, I understood that if we'd stayed in London, the chances were my kids would understand Italian, but they wouldn't speak it. So
Yeah.
for me, it was very important that they had the opportunity to not only understand, but speak and have to be part of Italian culture as well as being English as well. So, yes.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. It's a big move for your family.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so understood that there was this wonderful thing called language and you had the early excitement as a kid. What happened next? What were the stages? Obviously, learning languages in school, but how deep did you dive?
I was quite lucky because I went to like what in Germany is called a Gymnasium. In my school we did English age 10, and then like many schools you get a choice of your second foreign language, but it is compulsory in that type of school to take another foreign language. The choice was Latin or French. Took French. Because Latin is dead spring. Then a year later, we sort of had the option of taking afternoon classes in Italian. So I did 2 years of afternoon Italian, and that was probably when I started to realize I'm really just into like just put any language in front of me, I'll still have fun. It's way better than maths or natural sciences. For me, it's not that I can't do the other things, is that my preference and where I'm happiest is here. Then in that same school, I was able to then also later pick up Latin and still do it. So I came out of my secondary school having done technically 4 foreign languages, which is really, really cool. And I knew I was into languages. Then went and did what was called, like, it was based on a French training that you could do called secrétaire trilingue, so trilingual secretary. So I did proper secretary training, like how to take notes for your boss, how to optimize the office layout, touch typing, and other useful things. How to use a typewriter, because it's 2001.
I love the way that when you started going into optimizing and efficiency, the German came out in your voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, no, it was a funny time. But what I really wanted out of it was a really intense French and English experience, and we also did conversational Spanish. So in those 2 years, my French improved so much because I had French native speakers, and we didn't do Voltaire and literature that I didn't connect to. We did how to do a contract in French, but because it was so tangible for me, it worked so much better, and because the teachers had a sense of humor, and my secondary school teachers did not in French. So it really, I knew from then on that the relationship with your teacher really matters. And from my English as well, like I loved my English teacher in school. He really worked. That really worked for me. And then I obviously still wanted to move to England. Was a teenager in the time of Britpop. Britpop is obviously mega cool. And I was just like, I don't know, bitten by the bug or something. I had like posters of England on my walls and stuff as a teenager. I think one of my life goals was move to England. So that's what I finally got the chance to do, move to England.
As a Britpop girl, you must have an opinion. Was it Blur or Oasis?
Pulp.
Oh, it was Pulp. Oh,
it was always Pulp for me. I've got a Pulp poster over there. It's always been the biggest fan. Fan.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So Pulp, for those that don't know,
the best ones.
They were the best ones, obviously. They had a classic album called Different Class, which is rated in the top these albums as a complete piece of music, I think, for me, in the top 10, definitely. Mm-hmm. But they were very much a champion of the people, of northern working class experience.
This is strange as well, because I obviously came as like a German countryside girl, and what I've learned since I moved to the UK, which is a lot now, more than half my life has been in the UK, but I didn't have a sense of the class awareness and class consciousness of Brits at all. Mm-hmm. And to illustrate, I'm just going to tell you that in 2023, when Pulp got together and did touring again, it was the first time I saw them live in the UK. And it was at this festival in Warrington, which is in Lancashire, so northwest England. The song Common People, which is so based in, it has such a dimension of British class consciousness. Like, it's funny, before, I've always liked the line, everybody hates a tourist, because I'm from a tourist area. But I didn't really understand it as a teenager. But watching a Warrington audience go crazy to the lyrics of Common People, it just made it all click, and it felt really fun and good, and like it was really special. And that's what I love about all kinds of pieces of art like this. Like when they're good, they have layers and layers and layers, and you can listen to a song 1,000,000 times, you can watch something 1,000 times, and you'll still find new things.
Agreed. I think songwriters are storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear the best of them, and Jarvis Cocker from Pulp and the band, they wrote stories about their experience. You hear those stories, but when you're reading the words, you understand it's a story, but you don't necessarily get the cultural reference of songs like Common People.
Still good without it. So
absolutely.
You know,
the catchy pop songs, yeah.
You shouldn't be excluded, but it's so great once you do learn it to understand the new version of it. So I don't know, I think it makes it richer.
Absolutely. It's like reading a good book again and picking up on different tones or different information the second time round.
Yeah. Just being older.
And wiser. Yeah.
That's Liam, that's not me.
No, yeah. Well, the jury is out on that one, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we've managed to make it to when I was 20.
Hello there. So you're liking what you're hearing and seeing? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get back to the episode.
So moving to England and having spoken to you off camera, I know that you chose a place called Preston, which is not well visited by non-natives, I would say. What was that experience like?
Yeah, one of the big reasons I moved to Preston is, I mean, there are several layers. I don't want to give you the whole story, but my initial impulse was like, I don't want to move to London because that's so obvious. It was just something, I just didn't want to move to London. Everybody thought England is London, and I knew it wasn't. And I think because I was such a Pulp fan who are from Sheffield, sort of bring you that identity of a completely different place. It gives you an awareness that there's more than one place in England. So I wanted to not London. That was a really big thing for me. What was it like? It was fantastic in many, many ways. It was freedom of moving abroad by myself, the experience of a UK university life. I hadn't been to university before in Germany. Did this kind of different course. The secretary course was different. So the experience of being in a British university was amazing. And just suddenly I could go to club nights for music I liked. So there was a lot. It was not just moving to a different country and a country that I was so excited about, but it was also moving from a small town environment into a different space. The downside was I couldn't necessarily understand people. I definitely couldn't understand the locals. And that's even though I tested IELTS 9. So I tell people that it's like, if you test the highest IELTS score, that doesn't mean you're native like at all. No way. So there is a big, big difference. But that was a good learning experience. For me, it was the perfect thing I really wanted to do. Good part of my life.
And just to put into perspective for the audience, Preston is a relatively small city. It's like 150,000 people ish. So it's it's definitely not a grand in the way that a city like London is, or even Manchester is quite a bit smaller than Manchester, which is another big city.
And it's not rich like Bath. You might, like that's an obvious place you might go that's actually nice.
Right.
It's different. It's definitely, people will be drunk in the street sometimes, but
on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, I could handle it. It was fine. I think sometimes we consider our foreign students a bit too fragile.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, it adds to the experience, isn't it? This is what I like, the fact that you chose somewhere like Preston, because it's a much better reflection of what everyday life in the UK is like. London it's almost like a country on its own. It functions differently to a lot of the rest of the UK.
Yeah. I don't know. I really wanted real. I don't know. I had this thing in my head about real, I think. So I gave that a go.
Nice. Okay. And so had this university experience living in the northern part of England. Have you always remained in the north, or have you moved around a bit?
I stayed in the north for a long time, nearly 20 years.
Okay.
Because I then just got a job there, then went back to university, did my master's, met my boyfriend, moved in with my boyfriend, got a job, married the boyfriend. The boyfriend is now my husband. But the biggest, and then we moved to a city called Lancaster, which is a little bit maybe less gritty than Preston.
Right. Okay.
Still very northern, but beautiful. I love Lancaster so much. A lot smaller, more of a hippie community feel. The downside of the north, though, that was really starting to get to me was that it has very, very dark winters. And it was really a weather reaction. And because of the work I was doing, it also felt like we were sort of finished. I think sometimes in your life, you just feel like, okay, this chapter is sort of ending and I need to make a change. And then you sort of hang around for a year or so or two and go, I don't really know what's going to change, but something. And we eventually made the change that was my husband started applying for jobs around the country. And because I'd never made enough money for two people. And I think he also, I don't want to retire my husband. This is a stupid business trope. Long story short, he found a job in Kent, in Canterbury, which is pretty much as if you're going to move from number one of the top 5 cheapest cities in the UK to one of the top 5 most expensive. It's also a completely different world in terms of what people are like, and also the sun shines, as you can. So a whole different experience. And we've now lived in the south of England for a long time, 9 years.
Wow.
But yeah, we've settled. It's not
Right. Yeah. Canterbury is a beautiful city. It's
Mhm.
it's one of those, I would say, quintessentially English places.
Well, Preston is too, in a different way,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Certainly. Yeah.
Canterbury is, yeah, and we have so much more tourism here. We have so many more visitors. There is a lot more historic kind of buildings. Obviously, we have a cathedral. I would recommend visiting. It's really cute. It's a really nice day out, is Canterbury. But also there are, like, I can see more differences between, say, rich people and poorer people. So it's also a different world, and you kind of just, yeah, I think it's been good for both of us, for my husband too, because he never, like, I moved to a different country, but he never really moved out of the county he was from before.
Right. Yeah. So it's a different way of living for him as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. So let's jump in. How long were you teaching? When did it become apparent that that was going to be your career path?
Okay. I used to be a international officer at Lancaster University, which was a job where already I was really into international education. Loved it. And that job finished, and I needed to, my circumstances weren't amazing. I didn't have a great health year. So I needed kind of something gentle and didn't really know what to do. And I thought, oh, let's try something yourself. And when I thought about what I'm passionate about and what I'm sort of good at, I came back to language teaching and I thought, oh, this is something I can easily try. Put up a few posters with sort of beer ladies and said, come and learn German with me. And that was like 14 years ago, and very quickly realized that in the small city I was living in, I would never get enough students to pay for living with German. But I wanted to teach German, not English. I'm a little contrarian. I want to move to Preston. I want to teach English, German, whatever. So I went online and I started, actually at the time I was teaching on italki, and became a German teacher, and very quickly realized that English native speakers have a lot of opinions about learning and learning languages that I think are wrong. And I need to tell them what's what. And so I started blogging even in 2012, and that's where the podcast came from as well. So it was sort of, I wanted people to, I tried in all my teaching, I think, business and career, to help people understand how language learning can be fun and enriching, and it will give you that even if you're not good at it. And then because it gives you that, you are good at it, right? It's not you have to be good and then everything else comes. It's you do it, then all the good stuff comes, and then you get good.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah. It's like in positive psychology, there is this idea of, as a society, we believe happiness comes when we reach a goal. And then when we get that goal, we're not happy. So we need to have another goal to work towards being happy, instead of just being happy as we do the thing.
Yes.
Which is far more productive.
Yes, I think that's sometimes about money. Like some people seem like want to get rich, and then you say, why do you want to get rich? Then I can go to the beach on a Tuesday. And I'm thinking, but you could just go to the beach. Like, this is fine.
Yeah.
The beach is free.
Yeah.
It's very strange, sort of. Yes, you're right. So this, sometimes people fall into this with language learning, especially in cultures where language teaching and language learning is not as important. So native speakers, because you don't have to learn English to get by in the world. And I think we don't need to pretend that you do. A lot of people try to come up with some practical reason, and I think they're lying to themselves, and then it just doesn't work. So instead, just embrace that you are doing this for yourself, for your personal interest, and that in a cliche language, the journey is the destination.
Right. Yes.
I hate that I just said that.
Yeah. It's not a proper conversation if you haven't got at least one cliche. So
okay,
we've ticked that box there. Yeah. No, I agree. I think firstly, as a native English person, one of the conversations I have with people all the time is that there is quite a high level of ignorance involved in being a native English person. Especially now that we're more connected than ever before. We tend to think, okay, everyone else is going to speak English. If I travel, people will speak English. If I'm working, people will speak English. And there's no real understanding of the things that other people might find difficult with English, right? And that is mainly because we don't take the time to learn other languages.
That low-level, low-key insulting thing English people say when they say English is much easier than all other languages.
Yes.
So
yes.
rude!
It's easier for you to learn English than it is for me to learn somebody else's language.
That's
yes.
right, because you haven't tried. Because you don't,
Right.
or because you try, then you realize it's hard, and then for some reason you think it's not as hard for it's rude. Yeah.
I think it's a byproduct of colonialism,
Possibly.
right? It's hello, yes, we used to conquer the world, and therefore you should all speak our language, right? It's that.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's also kind of true. Like, English is not easier than other languages. This is not true. I mean, it doesn't, I always say it's really easy to get sort of medium good at English and then really hard to get good. Whereas in German, it's like, it's really hard to get medium good, but then I think it's easier to get good. If
right.
that's excellently linguistically expressed. But yeah, I think I just at some point when I heard the 100th English native speaker try to give me some kind of like reason why language learning is so hard for them, I just said to them, like, look, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Like, that's fine. And the truth is, you don't have to. You really don't have to, because it is true that English is one of the most learned. Is it the most learned language in the world?
English is the most spoken language in the world, and I think because it is the default second language in many other countries.
And because of colonialism, like you say, and the power of the USA as a kind of cultural, like, still, like, they have a lot of the money, a lot of the jobs, a lot of the prestigious universities.
The influence.
We're always going to, like, tilt towards English. Plus, one of my favorite, like, fields of study, English is a lingua franca. English as a lingua franca is a thing now. So even if there's no English native speaker involved, if I run into an Albanian person, we are so likely to speak English to each other, So it's not, you don't own like the English and Americans and whoever native speakers are the most powerful, whatever, they don't own English anymore. Everybody owns English now. And I think that helps. And it's just that for an English native speaker, it's a different kind of world that I think it's easy to feel lost in.
Interesting question. I from my own personal experience of living in Italy and trying to learn the Italian, I certainly reflect everything that you're saying about how getting to medium level of ability in English is relatively easy in comparison to other languages. As a language teacher, you see the progress from beginner to intermediate is usually very quick, right? Because once you have some basic foundations in grammar and you have about 1,000 words, you can get by, right?
Oh, the word order is consistent. The verbs don't really change around much.
Exactly. You only have 3 conjugations. Sometimes they're irregular. With Italian, like one verb, you're talking about knowing 20 plus versions of a single verb. So to get that base knowledge of grammar and particularly verb conjugation, it's really tough. It's really, really tough. So I completely agree with that. And I suppose as a reflection of that, there is a sense of feeling a bit lost when you are not in your native environment. So I do completely understand that. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a reflection of my own education, and I don't know to what extent every language is like that. But certainly with German, we learned a lot more about the grammar of our native language in school. Like we did knowledge of, and this is not because I went to whatever the fancy, more academic kind of school. This is even in primary school. I learned what nouns and verbs are and how they work and adjectives, etc. And then when I went to university in the UK, you're writing a university essay and people can't spell, people can't, like, it shocks me really at first to understand that the English don't know their own grammar either.
Absolutely, yes. There is a lack of understanding of the language. We have learnt through experience of listening to the people in our immediate circle and our environment.
Yeah.
The other problem, and this is one that I have in terms of spelling, is we struggle the same way that non-natives do with the fact that words aren't spelt the way that they sound. Right? I have this, and this has become more of a problem since I've lived in Italy, because as I've learned Italian, my brain is half expecting to say
consistent.
Right, exactly. I'm expecting to see, and so all of the times where you have EAs or EEs, or that the sounds that the schwa is substituting, which is the sound. It's the most common sound in the English language. In the longer words, when I start to spell out longer words that have more than one schwa in, I'm like, okay, is it an E? Is it an A and an I? I can't remember, right? And add on top of that, the functionality of technology means that I haven't had to think about that sort of stuff for 20 years.
Yeah.
Because predictive text started in mid-2000s. And so I've lost the ability to remember how to spell words correctly.
I wonder, I don't know if everyone, I'm pretty sure not everybody in Germany, by the nature of being a German speaker, spells extremely well. It's out of me and my partner, I am the good speller. So I have, even though it's not my first language, I'm always he will always ask me, like, how do you spell whatever? It could be anything. And I have had to stop doing a thing where if he says, say, how do you spell independence? I know that there's probably just, like, in my head, the question is just, oh, do you put an A in the middle or an E? So I just go with an E. And he's like, E-N dependent? And I had to learn that some people really don't connect the sound, and they don't visualize the word in the way that I do. And that's, again, so I'm now quite disciplined because I will spell out a word fully, because he's trained me to do that. And so even though that's not happened with my students, I was kind of trained to teach by my environment around me. And I've got curiosity about languages. So that's all really come into how I develop my courses, how I teach. It's always been 2 elements in there, really, which is the psychology, like, why do you think this is hard? Why do you not want to do this? Well, how do I get you to want to do this? How do I get you to feel like you're having a great time so that you keep doing more of it? And then also the just elements of language teaching, sort of like, how do I understand this grammatical concept and then put words to it in a way that makes sense for you?
Summertime and the living is easy. So easy, in fact, that it doesn't take much to push the like and subscribe buttons. And if you also push the bell icon, that means you'll get notifications every time that we put out a new video. Isn't that great? Tell us a little bit more about the courses that you created.
I have recently counted how many courses I made, and it's pretty terrifying because it's about 25.
substantial. Yes.
Yes, it's too many. It's not good. But I started my first online course. At first wasn't an online course at all. It was me messing around on YouTube really long ago. And I have this French grammar book. I was tutoring French to English speakers, and I had this book that I loved, which explained French grammar to me in a super great terms. It was just perfect. The problem with the book is that it teaches French through the medium of German. It's written by a German speaker. And so it was written for German, like high schoolers. And I loved it, and I couldn't find anything that did a similar thing. I do have one grammar book that teaches German grammar that is, I will gift it to people. I love this German grammar book. So this French one, best French grammar book, loved it, wanted my students to be able to benefit from it. So I used it as the basis of like French lessons where I filmed myself literally on my laptop camera. Not great quality. My cat at the time was a kitten. She's like jumping all over me. But I was teaching French grammar. That was the first time I kind of tried that. And because I had iMovie, I gave it a little theme tune and I gave it a little titles and I had fun with it. And people really liked it. Like it got really nice comments on YouTube. People used it. The numbers were numbering or whatever. And then I learned about online courses and I thought, oh, that's really difficult. But I went literally to the charity shop in the library, got myself like 6 French books, looked at the contents of what they teach to get you to that level. And then I looked at my lessons that I had already made, thought about what pieces are missing, put those in as well. And I made my first curriculum. That's how I made my first course. So through benchmarking really against what was around me. And ever since I've really enjoyed putting together courses. I think there's creativity and there's creativity and creation in putting together a curriculum and, producing the videos and putting it all in there. And I really enjoy that.
It's a multifaceted thing, isn't it? There's the creativity of how do I take this piece of language, this grammar concept, and then present it in a way that is going to appeal. Right? How do I make it fun? How do I make it interesting, but at the same time get the point across?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do I make it me? How do I give it my sort of twist? And I was thinking about this a lot because my most recent course was sort of this year I taught German again, and it was a German course, but I've given the entire course like a spy theme. So it was like, it's German conversation, but my students are agents and they don't get a lesson. They get sent a mission. And I've just built them like a little exercise called the interrogation. And I made a little quizmaster GPT, in ChatGPT that will only answer to your question if you ask in German, and it has to be asked in the right way, and only then will it give up the information. So you're like a spy and your informant is really reluctant and you have to ask in the right way. Like that sense of storytelling and how do I make it me? How do I have a little bit of me in there? It's always been a part of how I teach and how I want to show up as a teacher. And I still do it. I still do it now. I think it's really, really fun. And it's one of if you think about it in the context of 2026, it's one of the advantages that we have as teachers over AI, over Duolingo, over all the stuff that has been around. It's always us that get to tell the story and then get to invite the students to like, come and live in this story with me. And that's really cool.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned they're using a custom GPT. So integrating the classic language model, giving it a theme, but then also integrating AI. This is something that you teach on a course, is it not?
Yeah, well, I run like a language learning community together with my friend Josh, and it's called AI Language Club. So that's more for learners, but every month for the last more than 2 years, we have come up with new ideas for how to learn languages with AI, sort of different angles, different ways of learning. I recently made a tutorial that was taking a scenario of interior design and using it to practice your prepositions, which is not new as such, but I experimented around how we can do it with in a conversation with ChatGPT, using image generation or using a photo of your own room and then saying like, how do you think I should redesign this room? What do you think I could improve in the room? So it will then tell you, move this to the left or move this above this or whatever. So you can just kind of experiment around with that. It's taking maybe like concepts like that and just putting them into life in this way. And the course I made that is more for teachers that I've recently put together as well, that is about that kind of about what I've learned in this German spy program, which is it's called AI for A+ lesson planning. So it's how to take AI, build it into your lessons, but not let it take over or think I have to put everything in there, but instead just find that little bit where you want to add a little bit of life, or where maybe normally the students would have to ask you things, and think, how can I make them more independent? How can I send them away and get them to do this? And I have actually had really good results with this.
Nice. How did you find yourself going down this path of really deep diving into AI and how you can use it towards languages?
I felt like when AI first started, when ChatGPT was pretty much the first one, became publicly available, everybody was experimenting. And of course, as a person who works with languages, you then experiment with how can this be used for teaching. And I think a lot of people opened it up and said, like, speak German to me or have a conversation with me in German. Me as a language learner, myself and language lover, I experimented around with that. And I realized that this is a huge asset for us learners and teachers to have a database that size in so many languages of natural language at your fingertips that you can talk to. This has never existed before. This is not the same as a textbook or a worksheet or Duolingo or your grammar book. It does a different job, but it does a job that is so much closer to what most of my language learners want, which is they just want to speak. They always just want to speak. They're not interested in all the other cool stuff I want to do with them, like it's a great journaling exercise. No, they just want to speak. That's the dream. Okay, let's speak. And it's not that I wasn't skeptical and hesitant, and I'm not a person who, maybe this is coming through, like I'm a little bit hype averse, I guess. I moved to Preston. I taught German. I'm not
you're a bit
doing the obvious
rebellious, aren't
thing.
you?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know
yeah.
what it is. It's ADHD, I guess. So I don't know. Blame everything on ADHD. This is the new life. But I just thought, this is interesting. I can see so many opportunities. This is so versatile. And I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. And then I thought, do you know what? Okay, do you know what? I'm just going to become the AI lady. Because there aren't any experts out there about language learning with AI. They don't exist yet. So why don't I just explore it and do it instead of thinking, other people will know better. And so there was a little bit of a sort of self-motivating aspect in there, and like jumping over my shadow and saying, and thinking, won't people say she doesn't know what she's talking about? And then I thought, whatever, let's just try it. Let's just become like the AI person. So I'm now glad. In fact, I've just gotten a job in an AI team at a university. Crazy. But like, I'm really glad that 2 years ago, I decided I'm just going to embrace this thing and see. And I so strongly believe that we can learn a lot with AI. We're not trying to replace ourselves. We're not outsourcing. We need to learn how to combine critical thinking with this new tool. And to me, that is a fascinating, interesting space for learning.
Don't forget to utilize the comment section below to share your key takeaway from today's conversation. Yeah, agreed. I think that human nature has developed now to look for the quick and easy way of doing something. Right? We now live in a world where that dream of efficiency has been forwarded so much, so often, that we come to expect the quick fix.
Yeah. And it's the world implies, if you look at self-help or productivity literature, it implies that if you don't take the fastest way, you're doing a stupid thing. Or you need to do the full digital detox, right? And the truth is in the middle. The truth is we need to figure out our own priorities. And that's harder. Nuance requires way more decisions. But it's where, it's like where the juicy stuff is, and it's interesting.
Agreed. Something that I learned from working as a Chinese medicine practitioner was balance, right? Moderation.
Yeah.
In everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
I think with these quick fixes and that kind of mentality it implies that it's okay to do excessive things, because then I can just do something or take something that will sort that out
Mhm.
immediately for me. And that's never the way, right? The best things come to those who wait. And having patience, having the mentality of, okay, it might take me longer to do it this way. The fulfillment, the achievement that you receive at the end, say if you're, let's take language learning as an example. Okay, I can get chat to rewrite that email for me in a more friendly, professional tone.
Mhm.
And then I can copy, paste and send it. But what am I learning about how to do that myself?
Mhm.
And when I start to interact and use the structures and the written or spoken tone that I actually want, there's so much more satisfaction in that once you've gone through the journey to get there.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny to me to imagine that there would be people out there who don't have a lot of natural curiosity. At the same time, from what other people tell me, I have excessive natural curiosity. So
You
I don't know.
yeah, you sound pretty curious, like, and
Yes, but that's what it makes me think. It's sort of like, it's fascinating to see how those different sentences are put together. And it's just, yeah. It's language is a pretty fascinating thing. And it's what you're saying is it's almost brings us full circle to this whole like journey is the destination. But it is
right.
true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need the destination. Sometimes you just need that email sending and you don't have the mental energy to puzzle around with it for 20 minutes. Fine, just send it. And sometimes you want to learn something and then you're going to learn something. And I think we don't like learning isn't going to get any faster. I don't think.
I think as well, we have to take into account that in a lot of ways, people have had English particularly thrust on. In the accelerated globalization since the pandemic, right? Things changed very quickly. And people who may not have even considered learning English as a second language, suddenly they're working in an international company.
Wow.
And they have to find a way, whether they want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's definitely, I think, an emotional attachment to that idea of obligation versus opportunity.
I often think of this as performance. Like sometimes you just got to perform. In an exam, you kind of have to perform. But in, say, a lesson with your trusted tutor, you don't have to perform. And often what I do with my language learners, most of whom don't have to perform, is I have to gently take them out of that and kind of give them that safe space of right now it's okay to practice. But sometimes you got to perform, and knowing that difference is super useful as a language learner.
Yeah, agreed. And performance is such a challenging subject for a lot of people. Think about how many people have a fear of public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I know myself, I am perfectly comfortable to perform for camera. That's why we have this podcast. I'm perfectly comfortable to stand up in front of a group of people and present a grammar concept or a communication course or whatever it is. You ask me to do it in Italian and that person shrinks and wants to hide. They no longer want to be the spotlight. So I think you're right that there has to be the opportunity for safe practice.
Yes.
But you're right, there will always be a performance element. How do we build these people up so that they feel safe to perform? I think that's the key question.
It's really tricky. I mean, I've in recent years started learning the guitar because I really didn't have enough to do. And
ADHD, definitely.
Yeah. I'm still playing the guitar years later, so, you know.
Good.
But as part of that, it's brought out something I've always done, which is singing. I used to sing in choirs. In choirs, you kind of disappear. That's the point. Suddenly, I'm the one person singing, and I need to learn how to deal with that and how to perform, as in, like, not just have all the attention on me, but, like, entertain people, do things with my voice that are interesting, that are not just a vocal choir. And that was really interesting because it put me on that spot. And I remember the first time I tried it, I was so quiet. It wasn't necessarily a lack of confidence. It was also, I genuinely didn't know what to do. I didn't understand that it is now my job to do things that I used to think were like a little bit attention grabbing. But like the whole point is that you grab attention when you're not doing the same as 50 other people. and you want to create a unit of people. Now you're just one person and you have to grab attention. So it's that even if you don't necessarily doubt even if you don't necessarily doubt your skill, you still have to like learn how to behave in that different context. People sometimes think that their language skill isn't good enough when they just haven't ever been in that new context, right? So they think my German is not good enough because I couldn't speak really fast while ordering in a restaurant or something, or I couldn't understand the first time some German person spoke to me at native speed. And it's like, no, maybe your German isn't perfect, but also it's just never happened to you before. Your brain hasn't built the shortcut yet, right? So we need to, it's a funny thing with language learning where we have to do exposure therapy as well for our students. And, the best teachers do that. And it, like my guitar teacher does it, and it just gives you a little bit of exposure, puts you on the spot, but it never feels scary.
I love that. I've heard this before as well, that the standard of your language is based on how quickly you speak.
That's why I'm so good.
Right.
I just make all my mistakes really quickly.
I can speak quickly, therefore my language is good, right? And like you say, there is that, like, the nervous rattle through something, isn't it? If I speak quickly enough, they won't notice that I'm making mistakes.
Busted!
Exactly. Well, Kerstin, thank you so much for the conversation today. It's been a joy for me. Do you have a final thought for the audience?
Well, first of all, to thank you as well, Liam. This it's very interesting to have a deep conversation and with somebody who also teaches and sort of sees it, but you see it with non-native English speakers and I see it with native English speakers. So this is just really enriching conversation, which I hope people will also enjoy. And I didn't ramble too long about coming from a tiny village or whatever. Yes, if somebody wants to come and just participate in, like, read about language learning, read about how I teach, read about how I learn, the best place for that is my newsletter, definitely. And that is at fluentlanguage.co.uk. So fluent language, all one word, .co.uk/newsletter. And there is a blog there. There is my podcast. You have 240 episodes of my podcast to help yourself too. So I've got a lot of content, which is great for you to enjoy. And if you want to learn German, I've got German courses. If you want to learn Welsh, I've got a little dabblers course. And there are some quirkier things about learning science as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes.
Yeah, but too many courses. Just help yourself. Take whatever.
And one of 25 at least should be a good fit for you.
Yes. And come and join AI Language Club, because that's a great collection of ideas that will grow and grow and grow. And it's $9 a month. So we try to make it super accessible. It's good fun.
Fantastic. Kerstin, amazing. Thank you again.
Cheers. Thank you, Liam.
And we will see you all next time for the Conversation Club. Thanks a lot.